Well, what a day of Test cricket we've had, and how often have we said that in this series? It's been a day that's been reminiscent of the series that we've had when one team's in front, the other one refuses to go down. It was India again that at one stage were 186 for six. They were eyeing a first innings deficit of well over 100, 150 even, and then Washington Sundar and Shardul Thakur in their first outing with the bat in Test match cricket put up a partnership to remember. 123 for the seventh wicket, the highest partnership by an Indian team at that wicket in Australia. And it makes for a fascinating conversation on ESPN Cricket for Match Day. They've done particularly well, haven't they? Have Washington Sundar and Shardul Thakur. They've kept India in the game. And at stumps now on day three, Australia are ahead by just 54. Tom Moody and Akash Chopra with me. So let's get straight into this conversation. What a series we're having, Tom.
Yeah, remarkable series. I think, to be fair, I think the series is more about India and what India have managed to achieve. It's from a major hiccup in Adelaide, and let's just remember, outside of that hiccup in that second innings, they were very much in that contest, but had a disastrous second innings. It's all been about India and their ability and their resilience to come back and compete, regardless of the consequences that have been thrown at them, whether it be injuries or whatever it's been. They've shown enormous character. And to me, this series, regardless of the result in 2 days' time, will be remembered very much from a spirited team that showed enormous character and a cricketing nation that's taken another major step forward of being a team that's admired both home and away.
We've seen resilience from Indian teams in the past, Akash, but this is something unique. The injuries, the change of personnel, the fact that there are different heroes in almost every game, unexpected heroes in every day. This is quite something. This is something we haven't seen before, have we?
No. Yes, we have had some very proud Indian teams in the past. They've competed against all odds as well because India wouldn't tour that often. There were other challenges to meet. But then this team has shown something else. The resilience, the resolve, just the character that they have shown, what Tom was also talking about. Because at times your team is not known for what you have, but how can you actually bounce back or react when you don't have a lot of things? And this team was getting hamstrung one after the other. You would lose the captain and your premier bowler after the first test match, and then you lose a couple of more in the second test match. Then you lose half your side in the third test match. And by the end of the tour, you had only two men standing from the playing 11 or 2 or 3 men who actually played in the first test match. So when your team has gone through that kind of a turmoil, you've had people who were actually a part of the contingent because they were net bowlers, people who have not perhaps lifted a bat. Because these net bowlers are not supposed to bat in the nets. Of course, there are no net bowlers, remember. So Washington Sundar and Shardul Thakur have perhaps not batted at all. And here they are playing their first test innings. And they're making they've played a defining knock. So let me just go a step further. The resolve, the resilience that this team has shown, given the entire resources that India has now with Bumrah and Kohli and all, this has the potential to become the best test team on the planet.
All right.
Can I just add something? It's something that's really stood out for me over the last week is that, and it's interesting hearing experts from India like Akash and others talking about this side. But to me, it's another example of what you actually don't know, what you really have until you have to try to find it. And I think India have been so focused on their stars, their superstars, and they've got many of them. And suddenly once they go missing, I don't think they realise until now exactly what they do have. And they actually have a lot of quality cricketers underneath those shining stars. There's more stars to come through. And until these extraordinary circumstances arise, these young emerging stars never get a chance to shine because they're always in the shadow of the greater stars.
I find that fascinating, the point that Tom makes. Akash, while watching these two we've had almost years of discussion on batsmen who couldn't bowl and bowlers who couldn't bat, which is one of the reasons why India can't have a balanced white ball side. Here we're seeing a test series where we're seeing pretty much everything. It's a nice point made. You take the focus away from the superstars, and all of a sudden there is so much depth and reserves. Why can't it be applied across formats?
It's a fantastic observation, and what comes to my mind is the fact that when you play white ball cricket, a lot of white ball cricket, including a lot of T20 in form of the IPA, because even Washington Sundar or Shardul Thakur, they haven't played enough international cricket yet, but they are the T20 regulars of sort. So when you are in that space, you're constantly working on your other skill. You become a multi-dimensional player. Of course, these guys are not playing enough Test cricket for you to actually take them that seriously. If Ashwin is not available, maybe Washington Sundar is not even your second spinner in the country with regards to just the off-break variety. There might be a few more because Washington is so focused on just playing white ball cricket, even for his state side. He's not taking a bag full of wickets there either. And then same can be said about Shardul Thakur, that he's not playing a lot of first-class cricket, even though he's played more than the other three fast bowlers. So I think what is coming to the fore is also that we've been very critical of T20 cricket, white ball cricket in destroying players' technique and all. But it's also adding another dimension to their sport, where you are no longer a unidimensional player. There is another string to your bow, and that's coming to the fore.
Yeah, I mean, fact of the matter is, Tom, that Washington Sundar and Shardul Thakur, they've played a lot of IPL cricket, but they've not played a lot of first-class cricket. I mean, Shardul Thakur's not had a lot of batting in first-class cricket. But here we're seeing perhaps what Akash is referring to. There has been some help in evolving players in playing IPLs and being multi-skilled that can even come to use on debut in Test cricket overseas.
Without a doubt, there's two key things in making the transition from one grade to the next, and we're talking from first class into international cricket. And one of those things is your technical adjustment as a player to be able to adapt to a faster game, a game that's more, you're interrogated more as a bowler and a batsman. The other thing is the intimidation of the people that you're playing against. But now we see, with the IPL being the strongest franchise tournament on the planet, all these players, young players and all, are all getting the exposure of rubbing shoulders with an AB de Villiers or a Virat Kohli or a Mitchell Starc or a Josh Hazlewood or a Pat Cummins at KKR. So it's familiar surrounds for them. They've shook hands with them after a contest in an IPL game. They've probably faced them in the game. They've probably got them out in a game. So that sort of that uncertainty, or whether I belong or not, that is narrowed right down because they've been in that environment.
Wow. All right. This is a fascinating conversation.
It does make a huge difference, actually, Ronak. Let me just add one small little thing. When I made my India debut, that was the first time I played in front of a decent crowd in a stadium. That was the first time, that first game ever. Because before that, I was playing first-class cricket in front of empty stadia, right? But now, look at these kids. And the first IPL game was actually my first day-night game, where actually I was playing with white ball under lights, and there was, of course, crowd. And now you talk about these kids. So one side of it is, of course, the IPL. The second side is the India A tours, the shadow tours. So there's a lot of investment that's been made in these cricketers over the years. The system is in place. There is, of course, money in the BCCI coffers, but the money is also being utilized nicely, so that these guys have been to Australia like 3 times already. And as opposed to someone like us, we went there first thinking that Australian pitches have got demons in it. Because we've never gone there. But for someone, a lot of people in this setup as well, whether it's Mayank Agarwal, Prithvi Shaw, Shubman Gill, Siraj, they've all been to Australia now, like this is their third tour. So if that's the case, of course, there is familiarity. And what Tom is saying, absolutely right. Once you've dismissed a batsman, you've scored against a certain bowler, he's no longer intimidating. And that intimidation factor, if you take that away, then your best can also be realized.
Wow, all right. We've covered so many points. We're trying to understand what we're witnessing here, and I'm delighted that Tom Moody and Akash Chopra have gone deep into this, right from the help that the IPL is given, not just in terms of adjusting abilities, to sharing dressing rooms with players that you'd otherwise be intimidated by. We've also seen the spotlight on other players now in the absence of the Kohlis and the Bumrahs of the Indian team. Now let's talk about the partnership itself, right? 123 between Shardul Thakur and Washington Sundar. And Tom, they batted like batsmen. They didn't look like they were in any sorts of trouble.
Oh, look, absolutely. Well, we know that Washington Sundar's got a pedigree at the top of the order, even though that it's at a lower level. But still, he's got the temperament of a top order player. He's got the mindset of a top order player. He's got a technique that's, molded around, batting at the top of the order. So, yes, it's an enormous step up to be, applying those skills in a test match at the Gabba, but still he did that and he did that with some sort of assurity. He was very calm at the crease. He looked very much in control. Yes, he had his moments where he waffed outside the off stump, but so do the top order batsmen do that. So, that is allowed. So he was very impressive. And Thakur also, I thought the most impressive thing about him was that he just played his natural game. He is a natural ball striker. I've only obviously seen him in IPL cricket playing, and he is a natural ball striker, a clean hitter of the ball. And he took that game to the Gabba. He went out there, hit a 6 early in his innings, hit a 4 straight down the ground. He looked like he wanted to be himself, which was very important because it gave that partnership momentum early.
Akash?
Tom has, of course, covered most of the points because Washington Sundar, like Ravichandran Ashwin, actually. So there is some similarity there where he also started only as a pure batsman, an opening batsman, even till, say, T20 cricket, Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy playing for Tamil Nadu. So he's got that kind of pedigree with regards to his batting. He started bowling and wasn't considered a proper bowler till very long. It's only lately that he started bowling well, and he's now been considered a T20 specialist of sorts, as cutting teeth into international cricket as well. But his batting, he is a proper batsman, just that may not have had enough experience of batting in first-class cricket because he's traditionally or considered to be a white ball specialist of sorts. But Shardul Thakur, what a revelation. He's been working on his batting. That is quite evident if you were following his just the T20 travails over the last couple of years. You'd find that he's contributed. He's won India a game, an ODI game or T20 game. That was batting with another tailender or a batsman. I don't recall. It was Katak, I think, where he batted really well. And he can bat. He can hold a bat. He can bat. He can actually strike the ball well. So he's obviously putting in the hard yards and just he is a clean striker of the ball and he's backing his instincts. But one thing which is actually highlighted is that sometimes just the mindset is to fight and just be there, grind it out even when you're taking blows, body blows, they're hurtful, or you just surrender. This team has shown time and again that no, boss, you throw anything at us, we are going to be there. You need to get us out. I'm not throwing my wicket away. And that just shows character. And this team is all about character at this point in time.
Yeah, it was a 17-ball 6 against the West Indies in Cuttack that we saw the best of Shardul Thakur, which Virat Kohli is referenced in a tweet right now too. Before I go back to Tom, Akash, in 3 days' time though, some perhaps vindication of the selection call. Some of us were critical of Kuldeep Yadav not being preferred to Washington Sundar. If after 3 days you say Washington's going to take 3 wickets, including Steve Smith, and contribute a very defining half-century, you take that. So another vindication of selection call.
Yes. See, this is what you do. You take calls and then the result will eventually justify or will tell, no, this wasn't the right call to make. But somebody has to take that call. These are tough calls to make. And we have the advantage of hindsight. They do not. Once you decided to play 4 fast bowlers, I thought their hands were tied any which way. You cannot have a 5th bowler who is Kuldeep Yadav and not Washington Sundar because Washington can bat and somebody has to bat at 7. Shardul, however good he is right now, he's not your number 7. He's perhaps 8 or 9 in a proper setup. So he had to play. But Shardul and Washington, I think both these guys' team already must have had in mind that they can bat because eventually it's the sum of all parts. This is what we've seen in the previous test match as well. You drop or rather Kohli goes, you don't play batsman. You think the combination of Pant and Jadeja and somebody else, Shubman Gill at the top will take care of it. So when you're trying to just make do with little things, I think everything matters and their batting must have played a role in their selection.
What happened after that 6th wicket of Rishabh Pant to Australia's bowlers, Tom? They still seem to be chipping away at the wickets. They still seem to be bowling wicket-taking balls. And all of a sudden, we didn't see that in that partnership. What happened?
Yeah, look, I was disappointed with Australia's approach, to be honest with you, really for most of the afternoon. I thought they sat in the game and waited for things to happen. And I'm not saying at any stage the bowlers didn't try. Of course they tried. You know, Mitchell Stark's pace was up close to 150, late in the day, which is an extraordinary effort. But I think from a tactical point of view, I think there was a few things that could have been done to try to create opportunities, whether it be, an intimidatory spell, from around the wicket with a leg gully and a short leg or whatever it might be. Just be a little bit more creative just to throw the balance. At the moment, it's not at the moment, but in that afternoon, it just seemed to be ticking over in a very pedestrian fashion against Australia, making it happen. Because at the end of the day, Australia got to win this Test match if they're wanting to win the series, and get the trophy. And they certainly didn't show that urgency, I felt, tactically at all. And I'll repeat that I did feel the bowlers obviously threw everything they could at it, but I just didn't think the tactics behind their efforts married up.
Has that been a theme in the series for you, Akash, that if the bowlers bowl great balls and all three of them or all four of them are capable of it, then they get batsmen out? But the minute something else happens, something goes against plan A, whether it was Sydney on day 5 or whether it's here today, they just seem like they're still waiting for a great ball or a magnificent ball to come.
Well, I think that's been the overriding theme throughout for both teams, because whenever you are in a position to seize advantage, that you just press the advantage home, both teams have failed to actually close those moments, and it requires something. That's that little something that is the intangibles that makes a good team, or rather separates a good team from a great team. So this is where it has happened time and again, where what Tom is mentioning is absolutely right. That's what I was thinking. Why not go around the stumps and then just intimidate? Because eventually they did that, right? And the moment they tried doing that, which actually became like a bodyline series of sorts, and you knew something is going to give. And ergo, there was a wicket. So when there is a partner developing where you've got two primary bowlers who can bat a bit, they are taking a lot of, or consuming a lot of deliveries, then you may have to think slightly out of the box and do something else. But that's been the theme throughout. In fact, I won't be just critical of one side. I think both teams have failed to close these important moments. When everything looked in control, they've just opened up their fists and allowed the game to slip.
All right. Well, let's just also focus on India's batsmen, the proper batsmen, the ones who didn't get the runs, even though they were somewhat saved the blushes by Washington Sundar and Shardul Thakur. Now, Rohit Sharma in the 40s, Tom, a couple of 20s, a couple of 30s, and batsmen getting dismissed. What have you made of this unusual pattern of batsmen getting their eye in and then not making it big?
Well, I think they were saved by the partnership that we just talked about. If that partnership didn't evolve, we would be talking about the fact that the top order all got starts, except for Shubman Gill, and failed to cash in on what was a very good batting surface. I think we've seen today how good a surface it is at the Gabba, and to get a start as a top order batsman in a Test match and get yourself in and not convert to something substantial is something that you do kick yourself. And a number of the top order Indian batsmen did that through some indifferent stroke play, and also you've got to give credit to some good bowling early on by the Australians.
Akash?
See, we've been all praises for this team's resolve and resilience and the will to not give in. When you see that kind of resolve, then it's almost ironical that you see batsmen actually throwing it away, and they will have to put their hand up and say, that was a bad shot. Whether it's Mayank Agarwal, whether it's Ajinkya Rahane, whether it's Rishabh Pant or Rohit Sharma at the top. Once you've got the start on this surface with already hamstrung in terms of how many batsmen you have or just the lack of them, then you've got to make it count. And a good ball early doors, nobody's going to complain. But once you've got a start, you're obliged to now score more given the conditions that you find yourself in. So bad shots, loose shots, and then absolutely guilty as charged, because you can't allow, or rather, of course, they saved the blushes, but this is not how it should be. You were once again in a position to seize control, press home the advantage. You did not.
Now, we keep saying this, batsmen contributing to their own downfall. We'll always make an asterisk and put Cheteshwar Pujara in another category. And I saw the point that Akash has also put out on Twitter, which was written by Sid Monga in our columns too. But it just seems like Pujara, every time he's asked, he says that's probably the ball of the series. I think every time he's got a case to say that he keeps getting these absolute jaffers. And it's happened again, Akash.
Well, it will continue to happen. See, that's the thing. He's that good a player. And I'm a total sellout when it comes to that Sid Monga piece where he says, why does he get good balls or gets dismissed on good balls? Because normal deliveries are not good enough to get him out. So the only case here is in between those unplayable deliveries, is there something that he needs to address? Can he actually score a little faster? Because once that unplayable delivery comes, well, you will have to obviously just tip your hat and say, too good. So that's one case or one thing that he'll have to obviously work on because as good a player as he is, the fact is, and I'm all praises. I like his style of play. I know this is what he brings to the table, but his Sena country numbers, they need to continuously improve. And that can only improve if he finds a way to just keep the scoreboard ticking. I'm not saying hit boundaries. Today he looked different. So there was a couple of short pitch deliveries outside off. He was willing to just punch it through the offside and get some runs. Something that was not visible throughout the series. So maybe he'll have to find just one little extra gear somewhere to just complement his solid defensive game so that when the good ball comes, at least he's already got enough on the board.
Yes, Tom?
Yeah, just if I could add to that, the one observation I have with Pujara, there's no question of his quality. He's a very fine test batsman. But one thing I will say is that his style of play also attracts the fact that a bowler can hone in on what I call a dinner plate and remain in that really competitive length and line, where a more proactive batsman is reversing the pressure back on the bowler, and they're finding it hard to find that dinner plate. And that is that small sort of window on a very good length, on a very good line. So Pujara is never sort of forcing a bowler like a Hazelwood or a Pat Cummins off that length, because he is resolute in his defence. And every now and then, if they're allowed to stay there for long enough, the ball's going to just bounce a little bit more, seam a little bit more, and his bat's going to be sitting there waiting for that.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. Glenn McGrath made the exact point on broadcast here, stating that if he was a bowler bowling to someone like Pujara, then Pujara's not putting him under any pressure to do anything different. So the likelihood of bowling those great balls increases. It's an excellent observation. And yeah, it's something for you to consider as we look ahead to what could be a fascinating fourth innings. Now, of course, Indian Cricket Twitter was quick to remind us that the deficit of 33 in this test match was exactly the same as it was, as Akash Chopra would fondly remember, in Adelaide in 2003-04. I don't know if you're a fan of such coincidences or superstitions, but how do we see this game going on day 4, gentlemen? Akash, this is still good to bat. David Warner's shown us a little glimpse of what can happen if he bats long enough. What's going to happen on day 4?
See, Australia is ahead. As much as obviously we are appreciating India fighting, great resolve, lower order resilience. The fact is that India has conceded a 33-run lead. A slim lead, albeit, but India still has to bat last. India's bowling attack, though Navdeep Saini is there, but we don't know how much he will be able to bowl, and will he be a bowling full tilt? And even if he is, the fact is it's still a very inexperienced bowling attack. David Warner is still there. He will continue to score runs and keep the scoreboard ticking. There is weather around. See, for India, a draw is a win. For Australia, only a win is a win. Everything else is a loss. So if they can just sustain the contest for as long as possible, I think there is another result possible. I'm not saying that India victory is the likely outcome. It is the third possibility. First is Australia win or a draw, and then India winning, chasing something on day 4. It's not going to be easy, but then stay in the contest, and maybe weather might just play a little role here and there.
54 ahead. Now, like you pointed out, Tom, Australia need to press this game. They need the win. A draw gives India the Border Gavaskar Trophy. It also hampers Australia's chances for the World Test Championship significantly if they're keeping an eye on that. So they need to win. Now, 4 sessions wasn't enough to dismiss this Indian side in Sydney. Are they already looking at those sorts of calculations just yet? There's just 2 days of play. There's weather. We need the result. What sort of pace do we go at? What sort of score should we set India in the 4th innings?
Well, I think Australia, in a way, have to gamble. They have to gamble in the way that they bat in this 3rd innings of the game. They need to get runs quickly. They certainly need someone like David Warner to have a couple of hours at the crease, because he naturally brings that run rate and that intensity to his game. And they need to get 300 runs from this point as quick as possible to roll the dice and give India a chance to think that they can win it, and also enough time for Australia to think they can bowl them out. Weather is a big issue, but you can't sort of put that into your calculations, because anything can happen with the weather. It can, rain in the suburb next to where the Gabba is. So, I wouldn't be thinking too much around weather. I'd be just thinking about how quickly can I get 300 runs and what do we need to do that. And I think Warner showed glimpses of that this evening, just with his intent from the get-go.
All right. Well, this should make for a fascinating 4 days play. It's just been a brilliant series. Every time you think you know what's going to happen, India or Australia tend to surprise you. India more often than Australia. But don't rule out Australia having one last say. As Akash Chopra points out, they are holding the advantage at stumps on day 3. Big thank you to Tom Moody and to Akash Chopra. We'll get their thoughts tomorrow as well, where we'll know which team is firmly in the ascendancy. Join us for tea time discussion on ESPN Cricket for Match 10. I'll be with Tom and Akash at stumps to see exactly where this game is headed. Viewers in India, make sure you catch highlights, clips, analysis as it happens at the Gabba on ESPNcricinfo.com, as well as the all-new ESPN Cricinfo mobile app. And make sure you've tried that out if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow for day 4 of this fascinating series. We're just 2 days to go, but don't miss it. It's been a series to remember already.